see me. My name's Matt. I'm one of the owners of Limitless Lithium, and I'm here to talk through our product line, answer questions, make sure everyone leaves with a good understanding of everything we sell. So stop me, interrupt me if I'm talking about something and an immediate question comes up. Just tell me to stop talking and ask me. It's easier to talk about it while we're on that topic and instead of forget about it at the end. In your emails, and some of you may already have this, but this is a battery application chart that shows our batteries. So basically, we have three main lines we're selling. We've got the Nano HD battery, which is specific to motorcycles. It's a lithium phosphate battery. We're going to talk about it. We've got the Retro series. It's a Retro Pro 30 and a Retro Pro 56, two sizes. We'll talk through it. And then we've got the Sodium series, which is our newest model. I'm just going to start at the beginning with the Nano series. So the Nano battery is specific. It was built specific for motorcycle audio. It's got the cases designed to fit directly underneath the seat of a Harley. It bolts right in. The factory ABS module will go back on top. Everything fits like it should. It is a lithium phosphate battery. It'll support 5,000 to 6,000 watts from the underseat location. It is the strongest motorcycle battery available by far. And the big selling feature to this battery is it has a battery management system. And so the short is a BMS. The big appealing part to a BMS is it's basically built-in safety. So it's got a circuit board inside the battery that the current flows through, and it has a set of parameters that we've designed. So if the motorcycle gets to where the regulator goes out and this battery starts seeing more than 14.9, 15 volts, it'll shut down the input side of the battery to prevent from damage. Same on the low side. If the battery gets down to 10 volts, 10.1, somewhere around there, it'll shut off the output side to prevent additional discharge. Because in a lithium phosphate battery, the worst thing is a dead battery. They're hard to bring back from dead. Not impossible, they're hard. You got to do it very slowly. You have to do it very specifically. And this BMS stops these problems. Does have a short circuit feature. So if the customer hooks the thing up backwards, which does happen, it will protect itself. It'll turn itself off. And so when this BMS is activated, it literally shuts down the battery. So it's essentially off. You put a voltage meter on it, it's going to show 0 volts. It's not going to do nothing. And the way to reactivate a battery with a BMS that's off is we have to apply current to the terminals. So we can do that with a jump box. We can do it with a battery charger. I've turned them on personally with a 9-volt battery out of a voltage meter. So any type of little current hitting these terminals is going to turn this battery back on, and it's going to retain enough power to start the bike. Once we do that, the stator will take over and it'll charge it back up. So in a lithium phosphate battery or a lithium battery, the BMS is very, very important because it stops this discharge. It stops this overcharge. It keeps the battery in its safe operating range so that we're not worried about damaging the cells. In that Nano series, we have the 30 amp hour, which does fit under the seat in a Harley. There's a lot of companies. I don't know how many of y'all do motorcycle audio. There's a lot of companies that make a drop rail kit for behind the tire. They're all specific for our battery, so it'll drop right in. Now, some of the Gold Wings, some of the Victories, some of the Soft Tails, a lot of these other machines, they take a smaller case. It's a 20 case. It's thin and tall. We do have that. That's the second one on the page. That one is for the Soft Tails. That one's 20 amp hours. Same BMS, same parameters, same rules. That one will support between 3,000 and 4,000 watts from the underseat location. And they do have a big burst. So the Nano 30 amp hour, it'll actually burst 1,000 amps. I've maxed out my load tester, testing the thing. The BMS will flow 1,000 amps in a burst situation. It's pretty awesome. They support a ton of power. And so this has become very popular for side-by-sides. These are a sealed battery. So a lot of the Can-Ams, a lot of the Polaris Razors, a lot of the Rangers, they're starting to use these batteries, and they're supplying enough power for these crazy systems. They're supplying the power for the light bars. And the appealing part of it is most of those people, they'll go out riding, sit next to a campfire, and the machine will go dead. And a dead lithium, like I talked about, is very bad. These can be jump started and the person can keep riding, because that's probably what's going to happen out in the woods. So these are very safe. We've got a lot of customers using that smaller battery, and they're actually sticking in the audio roof because it's only about 2.5 inches deep. So they're sticking it in the roof of these machines and pulling their powers and their rounds for their amps that are in the roof off of it. So that's the Nano lineup, very specific to motorcycle, very specific to side-by-sides. It's more of a power sports battery, and that BMS is a huge selling feature to it because it's pretty rare to have a BMS in a battery that can still support a lot of power. It's been custom made for us to be able to flow the current. There's a couple other companies that have a power sports battery. They do have BMSs in them. They don't support the power. They're more of a 500, 800 watt battery. And once you get deep into understanding the specs, you can easily see that. This Nano battery does come with its own specific spec sheet, which I will get to you if you don't have. This sheet tells amperage, it tells voltage parameters, it'll show thread size, location, it shows everything you need to know to quickly identify which one, how many. Any answer you need is going to be on this paper. If you don't have the answer to it, we can get it for you, but it's going to be on this paper. So that's basically the Nano lineup. Still a lithium phosphate battery. I don't know if anyone's got any questions on that specific battery, but if you do, you're welcome to ask. If not, save them to the end, whichever you want to do. The next one across the paper is the Retro series. The Retro series is our car audio battery. It is a lithium phosphate battery, and that's when you hear a lithium battery, they've all always been lithium phosphate batteries. Those batteries have a resting voltage of around 13.3. They support a ton of power. They have their deficiencies for sure. They have downfalls. There's a bit of a learning curve in installing them, and I'll kind of go over it. I don't want to get too deep in it, but I'll go over it. So those batteries, like I said, have a resting voltage of 13.3. Any factory battery in a car, lead acid, AGM, Optima, gel, whatever it is, none of them rest at 13.3. The problem is when you take a lithium battery, any lithium battery ever made, and you stick it with a battery that has a different resting voltage, they're going to end up equalizing themselves. And that's bad for lithium because we don't want dead lithiums, and our factory battery is going to just be a constant draw on a lithium. So for the past years, the fix was using an isolator. So you take a 500 amp relay isolator, you isolate the factory battery from the lithium battery, and that solves the problem. When you trigger it with ignition, car is on, batteries are together, car is off, batteries disconnected. That's been kind of the fix. And it does work. And then a lot of people say, well, I want a lithium only vehicle. That's fine too. The problem with that is a lot of your factory batteries are 50, 60, 70 amp hours of storage. And lithium batteries are as small as 10 and 12 amp hours, and then up to 100. Problem is the lithium battery is small storage, big output. So it's kind of like the gas tank of a vehicle. Two vehicles can have a 25-gallon gas tank, but this old 86 F-150, its performance is going to be way different than a brand new Z06 Corvette. So because they have similar storage capacities doesn't mean they have the same burst energy or power support. So where we come into getting a lithium only vehicle, we've got a battery in a Tahoe that's 80 amp hours. It needs to be that to support all the alarms and the keyless and all the sensors that are constantly on. We take that 80 amp hours out and we put 30 amp hours in it. Just the factory vehicle itself is going to kill the battery way quicker than it would have on the 30, just because that storage is low. So doing a lithium only setup is a great option. We just have to put enough capacity in it to offset what we removed. It gets expensive. If you've only got a 5,000 watt amplifier and you want a lithium only vehicle, you've got to buy 3 or 4 times the amount of lithium you technically need, just because we're chasing that capacity to start the vehicle. So pound for pound, the lithium batteries are probably still one of the strongest ones, but they do come with all these pieces of the puzzle to make them work correctly. They are a good battery. The Retro series is under hood safe from our batteries. It's got a thermal paste that encapsulates the cells. It's heat resistant, so you can stick it under the hood of a car. It's a sealed battery. No one really makes an underhood lithium battery. This one is safe. So that's an appealing part. It's good for a Tahoe truck because it's a Group 86 case. It'll pop right in the factory location. You take the old one out, put the new one in, you got a lithium only vehicle. Excellent option. Like I said, they do support the power. They do not have a BMS in them. So most of your car audio batteries made that are a lithium or any type of lithium, they don't use a BMS. Reason is no one makes a BMS to flow the current that a 5,000 or 10,000 watt class D amp's going to draw. So no one uses BMSs. Downfall is these things can go dead. If you got a current draw,
took the computer in.
We get a current draw in the vehicle, someone leaves headlights on, we got a bad amp, anything happens, we come out to a dead lithium. Most of your customers are going to immediately want to jumpstart a vehicle. Absolutely cannot jumpstart a lithium battery. Not a thing at all. And the reason why is when they're dead, they can't accept current quickly. They need a current extremely slow, like 1 amp, 2 amps. And even a factory alternator is going to dump 100 amps in a dead lithium. It's going to mess up the battery. Most people don't know that. That's a big downfall of lithium. So that's lithium's excellent. It's always been good. It's got a lot of unique characteristics that make it tricky to install. And then all of a sudden sodium came around. Sodium's the last 3 batteries we have. We have 3 sizes of sodium battery. Sodium came around and it really changed a lot of what we're used to. And the reason being is, well, let me back up to the retros real quick, the lithium. So the working voltage is 14.8 max, and that's where basically everyone's car charges. And these things are dead at 11. 11 volts, they have no capacity. They're not going to start a car. It's not going to do nothing. These things are dead. That's the range. They rest at 13.3. And then sodium comes out. Sodium's the new guy on the block. We have 3 sizes. We have a 12 amp hour, a 30 amp hour, and a 50 amp hour. Sodium really changed the way the brick and mortar store installs and sells lithium, in my opinion. And lithium is no longer the general term because a sodium battery contains no lithium. And that's where it gets a little confusing because it is new and people still generally categorize everything as a lithium battery, but a sodium battery has no lithium in it. So the appealing part is sodium batteries are very, very safe. They cannot just burst into flames. They can't do any of that crazy stuff. There's no lithium. The flammability is gone. All the negative is gone. A sodium battery has a working range of 6 volts to 16.1. Huge range of voltage. The appealing part of a sodium battery is if you charge it to 12.4, that's where it's going to sit. If you charge it to 15.2, that's where it's going to sit. It's very similar to a capacitor. It'll hold where you charge it to. Because of that, it allows us to parallel hook it up to an AGM, to a lead acid, to a gel, because neither battery will create a draw on each other. They mirror each other. So it's very, very super simple to install. It's just like it was 10 years ago when you threw a bunch of red top Optimas in the back of a Tahoe. You hook the things up, run a power and ground from the front, hook it to the battery, battery to the amp, it's done. We don't need isolation. We don't need anything. We just literally put it in line. It's a huge, huge time savings. That install education is gone. The customer education is gone. We never recommend to jumpstart any battery. Sodium batteries can accept more current from dead. I don't tell anyone to, yeah, jumpstart your vehicle. I still want someone to charge it back slowly. I still want someone to treat it correctly. But if a customer doesn't listen to you and they jumpstart their vehicle, more than likely they're not going to have an issue. They are safe to be charged rapidly from 0 volts. 6 volts, they have capacity. So we don't have to make up 10, 11 volts to start getting capacity. Some more appealing parts are sodium batteries work a lot better in colder climates. So lithium phosphate batteries, their discharge will be reduced in colder climates. Once the cells heat up or current starts transferring through them, they will have more output. Sodium batteries will retain more output in a colder climate. That's another big selling point. The No-Li 12 amp hour is the same case as that small motorcycle battery that fits like a Victory and a Goldwing. And we've got a ton of people sticking them in the back of a crew cab Chevy, and they're sliding it right under the seat on that little hump. You can support 2,000 watts, 2,500 watts, no problem. Slide it in there, no isolation, hook it up and be done with it. The 30 amp hour is a 4,000 to 5,000 watt battery. And all these specs are going to be on this sheet right here, which I already said. I'll make sure y'all have them if you don't have them. We have 2 ratings. We have a normal 14 8-volt range because that's what 90% of the vehicles you work on are going to do. We do rate it at 16 volts also because it can be charged that high. It is capable to do that. It's kind of rare you see anyone with a higher voltage system unless it's, you know, a big system. These are safe to do that. They will work there. It's got 2 ratings. 30 amp hours, 4,000 to 5,000 watts. It can do up to 8 with a bigger alternator. On this sheet, it rates everything at 100 amps because that's generally around what a stock alternator is. Some vehicles got a 140, some got a 150. Some of the diesel trucks got twin 140s. It's rated at 100 amps. So you know if you've got more than that, it'll support more power. The appealing part of sodium is it uses that current. It'll absorb it really fast and it'll discharge it really fast. And you know, now that we're talking about that, sodium isn't really a good option for a motorcycle. I know I'm saying a lot, so write down your questions. Sodium isn't the best option for motorcycle, and the reason is because it has that wide voltage range. It only has a small amount of capacity in this specific window where people want to run amplifiers. So on a bike, generally they want to charge at 14.4. That's basically what a motorcycle charges at. And no one wants to run their amps in the 11s. So we've only got a few volts to utilize. And the capacity or the storage of that gas tank is really small in that little window. Where the lithium iron or the nano HD, it has a way larger gas tank in that voltage window because that window is way smaller. So the lithium iron or the nano HD is still the #1 motorcycle battery by far. It'll outlast the sodium. The sodium is a little bit safer, but not when you're talking about a lithium with a BMS, because we've added that safety feature to bring everything kind of back on that level playing field. So motorcycles, stick with the lithiums. Sodiums aren't any good. A golf cart. You got someone with a golf cart. They don't want a sodium battery. They don't have a lot of storage in this range. We want a nano HD. We want something with a BMS. People are probably going to run it dead. A pontoon boat. If it's not hooked to the motor, we need something with a lot of storage in this range. We're going to be using it. We want a nano HD. We're chasing that BMS and we're chasing storage. More storage, the longer it's going to play. Then we got the No Lie 50. No Lie is no lithium. That's where the name of the sodium batteries is. No Lie 50. It's between a 6,500 and 12,000 watt battery, depending on alternator current and voltage. Take the low scale. It's a 7,000 watt battery. You got someone that comes in 415 setup in a Tahoe, 5,000 watts on base in a 4-channel. Leave the stock battery under the hood. Leave the stock alternator on the car. Put all the amps in the back. Run the No Lie in the back. Parallel it in with the factory battery. Hook everything up. You're good to go. It'll support 7,000 watts, 8,000 watts in that application. You swap out to a big alternator, we're bringing it up to 10,000 watts now. Don't have to change batteries, no isolation, no nothing. The sodium really changed for brick and mortar stores. I actually also own a brick and mortar store and I do installs, and this just makes it so much easier for the techs. We don't need special rules. We just stick the thing in there. There's no maintenance to the customer. Just go like you normally go. Very, very big thing. I'm not trying to just harp and push that, but it has a ton of good selling features for brick and mortar stores. That's basically the 3 lines of batteries we have. Past that, we get into chargers. We offer 4 chargers. We have an 8 amp charger and we have a 25 amp charger. That's just a regular battery charger. It's meant for lithium and sodium. You plug it in, it's got a red light on the end of it. The red light means it's charging. When it goes to a green light, it means it's charged. In the lithium world, any charger made, we don't want to leave a charger on a lithium. If you look at some of the other brands like a Noco or any of the other brands, they don't really talk about it, but you look at them little tiny words, you need some glasses to read. It'll stay in there that you only want to use it on a battery with a BMS. And the reason being is smart chargers generally don't turn all the way off. They always have some sort of amperage trickling out of them. And so the BMS in a battery, which no car audio batteries have, the BMS in a battery is set to tell the charger to stop charging. Without a BMS, there's nothing to tell the thing to stop working. So with that said, people will take a charger or they'll take a smart charger and they'll put it on a lithium iron battery like a Retro 56 or some other brand, and it can be easily overcharged because people don't understand that. They'll see a green light and they'll assume, hey, it's done, let me be done with it. Lithiums don't work like that. Once they're charged, they're done. So we have an 8 amp and a 25 amp charger. Those are chargers. And we have 2 maintainers. We have developed a maintainer. We made our own board. And the way it works is it's 3.5 amps. It's meant to stay in the garage. You plug this thing in, and once it starts charging, it goes up until 14.3. And then at 14.3, it completely shuts itself down, turns it all the way off, 0 amps out. The thing's completely off dead, and it'll just sit there. And if you have a current draw on the car, if anything makes this battery get down to 13, the thing will turn itself back on. It'll charge it back up to 14.3. It'll turn itself back off. It'll continue that cycle forever. Those maintainers do have a specific plug in the box that plugs into the factory Harley charging port. Plug it right in to the factory leads. You leave it on your bike, done with it. Chris, the business partner, he's got a big excursion, probably 60, 70,000 watts, ton of batteries. He has this little 3.5 amp maintainer, maintains that thing as it sits, never dead. So That's a really, really good thing. I seen a question pop up. Can you pair a sodium to a lithium? Yes. So if you've got a customer with an existing lithium bank, if we've got a customer with a C-Max bank, which is them cells out of old junk wrecked vehicles, if you got a customer with anything that has a range of 6 to 16, we're putting this thing with it, and it's going to be fine. It won't be no problem at all. We need to get in a little careful with charging, because C-Max or an LTO battery, they require a specific charger. It will charge the lithium, but we need to make sure we use the right charger when mixing chemistries. We recommend not to mix chemistries, but with a sodium, it's not impossible to pull it off. I did see another question come up about the storage. So lithium batteries and sodium batteries as a whole, sitting on a shelf, they lose about 3% of their charge over 6 months. So if you got these things in your building and you're sitting on one for 4 months, we can feel confident that we can just stick this thing in the car and we're still good to go. General rule of thumb, it's a federal law. You're not supposed to ship a sodium or a lithium battery that's charged more than 40%. So all of these batteries, I do recommend topping off before they're installed. If you don't have a charger in your shop, start the vehicle and let it idle for 5 minutes. The performance is going to change in that 5 minutes because we're going to top off this battery. They all ship basically half charged. In the real world, you stick a voltage meter on it. A battery that has 30% charge and a battery that has 80% charge are going to show you the same number. You can't tell depth of charge on a sodium or a lithium like you can a lead acid. So that's it's always good just to top them off. But once they're in your building, once they're charged, they will last 3% over 6 months. I don't know if there's any more questions in here, or if anyone has a question. That's kind of a quick run through of everything. I'm gonna make my notes and make sure I didn't miss nothing important to talk about. Storage capacity, burst power, dump star. I think I got most of it. Does anyone have any questions? I do have a few products to show you. I just want to make sure no one has any questions on these 3 series of batteries. Mounting cases. Do we have a way to mount the battery in a vehicle? So none of our batteries have mounting feet on them. We do not have like screw down attachments on them, and we don't have any boxes to hold them down. We probably need to work on that, but we don't have that right now. Let me open this chat up and see what else we got going. Can you parallel to a lithium? Yes. How long will those mounting cases? Can the maintainer be used on other lithium batteries? Yes. So we have 2 maintainers. We have one that has HV at the end of the part number. That's a high voltage maintainer. So if you or a customer has a vehicle that charges at 15.5, that's where you want to charge for some of them C-Max batteries. Some of the DIY people might have it, or if you have a high voltage sodium battery, the high voltage maintainer does the same as the other one, but its parameters are higher. So it turns off at 15.5, turns back on at 14.2. The lithium one is the 14.3 to 13. It can work on any lithium phosphate battery. It does not have to be ours. It's capable with the chemistry, not our specific brand. Either one of those maintainers will work on the sodium. Depending on the voltage range the sodium being used will dictate which one you need. Can you charge a no-lie with a normal charger? So the answer is kinda. And the reason I answer that way is a normal lead acid AGM old school charger you buy from Walmart. The way they work is you got that little gauge and you'll set the thing on 10 amps and it'll go to 10 amps and it'll do 10 amps forever. And that's fine. The way lithium batteries want to be charged is they want constant current and then constant voltage. So I would use a specific lithium charger for a lithium battery. The other ones will get it to about 70%, but they'll never fully charge it. I don't see any other messages in the chat. Does anyone else got anything that they need to ask? And anyone need help understanding any of it? C ratings. Let's speak about C ratings. Okay. This is good. I forgot about this. Thank you, Dave. So a lithium battery generally has a C rating. A C rating is a mathematical equation that tells you how to calculate the discharge current. So a C rating on a lithium battery is a 10 multiple. Basically what it means is if you have for easy math, if you have a 45 amp hour battery and it'll do 1 C discharge, it'd be 45 times 1. The thing will discharge 45 amps. So this is a good way to look at people's specs and understand what it will discharge. So if you have a 50 amp hour battery and it's a 3C discharge, this thing will not support more than 150 amps. That's all it's going to do. And a lot of battery companies will put a C rating on it because most people don't understand what it means. And they'll tell you it'll support 10,000 watts. They'll put some number on it. But then in the specs, you can math it in your head to realize it's incorrect. A lot of companies use a PBEQ rating. This is a storage rating. I'll give you an example. Let me find one right here. I think it's our Retro 56. Our Retro 56 is 56 amp hours, but then the PBEQ rating is somewhere in the low 200s. And so a tactic from lithium companies is they'll put this battery is 220 PBEQ amp hours. And so a customer is going to say, hey, oh man, this thing's 220 amp hours, but it's not. And it's kind of a crappy way to advertise it. But where PBEQ came from, it's supposed to be a mathematical calculation that allows you to calculate cranking amps in comparison to a lead acid battery. So it's a storage calculation that is irrelevant to the performance. It's only meant to only be considered against comparing to a lead acid battery. It's a completely useless number, basically, but it is a big number. It's generally a multiple of 4. So if you got a 50 amp hour battery, your PBEQ is going to be 200. So instead of just saying the thing's a 50 amp hour battery, people are advertising it as a 200 amp hour battery, PBEQ. No one knows what PBEQ means. So they just assume they're buying a 200 amp hour battery when they're buying a 50. So for you, your customers, this is good education. It's good knowledge to see where some companies put the real information out there, others put this inflated number, which is meaningless to what we're doing. Price range, I see that there's a price sheet in there. Just talk to your Davis rep for all the pricing. They've got price sheets. They've got the little cheat sheets. They've got the application chart. They have everything they can send to anyone that needs any of that information. Did I miss anything, Dave? Is there anything important that I skipped over too quickly?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm not near as technical as Matt by any means, but I've been selling this product for 2 years and have some experience selling it. And with the sodium, the biggest drawback I have to selling it is the consumer just can't believe it, or the dealer just can't believe it. You know, and some of these large systems where we're doing hoopties and box cars, it's hard for a dealer to understand that he doesn't need the size and the weight of 4 4800 AGM batteries, and he can replace that with a 9 to 10 pound sodium battery. I consider the relationship with retailers and with dealing with retailers between lithium and sodium is, there's just a list of problems that go with lithium batteries with the consumers. And it does not matter how good you are at explaining the technology. It does not matter how good you are and your dealer is to explaining the technology to the consumer. They're going to do what they're going to do, and the problems you're going to have to deal with. With sodium, there are no problems. In layman terms, when we're speaking to customers or when I'm speaking to distributors and dealers and distributor salesmen, I use C rating based on my interpretation that an AGM battery has about a C rating of a 2. A sodium battery has a C rating of about a 17, and 21 to 22 C rating on a lithium. And what that means is when you talk, Matt talks about the 10-time multiplier, it's just basically that. But my explanation for C rating to people is the time that it takes the battery to do a complete charge and discharge. And that's a round motion, and in your mind, if you've got a C rating of 2 versus a C rating of 17 versus a C rating of 22, you can get in your mind the differences. And like Matt says, its C rating is just the size of the engine. Doesn't have anything to do with the storage power. It has to do with the engine driving that storage. The other big thing that resonates with dealers is real simple. All the work it goes into using multiple AGM batteries, the cost, the injuries from lifting them and dealing with them in the trunk, all that goes away when they go to using sodium. And our customers, I tell them when they're bidding the job, they don't bid any less labor hours when they make the transition, and they're using less wire, they're using less connections, so that additional profit goes into their pocket. So we're using the transition between AGM and sodium as also an additional profit center for the dealer to pick up labor dollars that he would be spending somewhere else. Other than that, if anybody's got any questions, the thing that I have experienced, if I can get a guy to use one of them in one application, you've got a customer that's going to do repeat business with you. I have the little 12 amp hour in my truck, and I've got about 4,000 watts of power, about 250 amps of current draw, and that 12 amp hour is holding my voltage to 13.8, 13.9. I had a AGM before, a little 600 from Riken. I was lucky if I could hold my voltage when I was running the system hard at 9 to 10 volts. It's just the difference of technology.
Yep, yeah, he's exactly right. And a good example is for excess power, full throttle, any name brand AGM, it'll take 4 or 5 of those to do what one sodium 50 amp hour will do. It'll take more than 4 or 5 of them for the brick and mortar store to make the profit you would make on the one sodium battery. Way smaller, easier to install, less wire, less time. It's just a really good product where you don't have to stack multiple batteries anymore. I did see a question in here about the discharge amperage. So on this piece of paper, which everyone will get, it does show discharge amperage. The 50 amp hour will continuously discharge 500 amps, no problem, and it'll burst up to 1,000. So the 850 about is correct. That's right in there. Another appealing part about lithium and sodium is their ability to take charge current very quickly. So if we had 4 or 5 AGMs in the back of something, we take all that out, we stick a sodium or a lithium in there, this thing's going to recharge extremely fast. And that makes it to where we don't have to have this giant stack of sodium batteries, because the amplifier is going to pull the current out quickly on a dynamic load. So it's bursting its power out, 20 amps, 100 amps, 400, up and down. The alternator is constantly pumping in 150, 200, 300, whatever. And it'll maintain that high voltage because of its speed of retaining that current from the charge. So it's a night and day difference from an AGM, from a lead acid. Not that any of those are bad. They're just at this point an older technology, and the newer stuff is just absolutely blowing it away for sure.
I have another question.
Yeah.
So our amp board in our demo room, we have a couple Northwest AGM batteries, and we have them on I think it's a 100 amp inverter.
Yep. Yeah, big power supply probably.
Yeah, we have a big power supply for it. We have an issue when we have the newer, bigger amps, when we want to really get on it for the customer and show them what the woofers in our wall can do.
Yep.
They cut out. Would swapping those AGMs out for like a no light help alleviate that as far as for the voltage drop?
It'll be a night and day difference. And the reason is the reason for my answer is most of your AGM batteries can only burst 100 or 200 amps. So if you've got a couple thousand watts on that board and you're hammering a lower note, that amp's probably asking for 400 or 500 amps, and the battery bank just can't do it.
Right.
The big sodium battery, it'll burst 1,000 amps. So you'd have to have like a 10K plus sub amp to outrun the burst ability of the No Live 50. The big thing when installing them in boards is we want to make sure that this amperage of this power supply tapers off once we get to a set voltage point. 98% of them do. But if your power supply has the ability to set the charging voltage at some predetermined number, 14.8, and then say the sodium's at 13, I expect it to put 100 amps out. But once we get to 14.8, I don't want to see that thing doing 100 amps. I want to see it doing, 2, because we've met our goal. So as long as your power supply will vary its amperage output, once we get to the set charging limit, I would 1,000% try one of these in your board, and you're going to see a huge difference in the way that board performs and those sub amps play, just because this battery can burst out the current that your AGMs can't.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yep, no problem. Recommend sodium or AGM for boats. In the boating world, it depends. So in the boating world, if it's hooked to a boat motor, that means it has charging. Most of your boat people park and they play for hours. If the boat's going to be parked at an island for 8 hours and it's going to play, we need storage. We need enough battery to last that 8-hour time frame. So we're chasing capacity. It doesn't matter if it's an AGM, a lead acid, a sodium, a lithium. It doesn't matter what it is. We're still chasing this capacity. So a sodium battery is going to work excellent in a boat. It's going to be probably the preferred option. The question is, how long does the customer want it to play, and how much amperage draw is this customer going to see over this time? And that's going to be a mathematical equation that'll tell us how much storage the person needs. Some people put these things in boats or big yachts and they don't ever hook it to the motor ever. Full standalone deal. They charge it before they go out. They play it until it's dead and it's over. Some people hook them to the motor. So every application is going to be different, but yes, a sodium battery would be an excellent option in a boat. Being recorded. Yes, I believe it's being recorded. I think Davis has got this all recorded, so they can probably send it out to you and you can watch it again. Call your rep if you have a question. If they don't have the answer, they'll call us. I can get my phone number. We're here to help to make sure that the education is there. Any other questions? I don't see no more in the chat, so that might be. I think I've covered it all.
Are you able to tell us about future products?
So we do have a battery case we're working on for our Nano HD battery. It is not available yet. It's not done yet. I have a prototype. Basically, it's going to reconfigure the terminals to the top of the battery. So when you slide a Nano HD in a 96 and newer Harley, the terminals face the front tire, they face forward. We do have a 90-degree machined adapter that'll allow you to hook the wire to the front of the battery, and then it gives you a mounting post on the top of the battery for aftermarket wires. That is been working. A lot of people use it. We sell thousands of them. We did tool our own case, and it's going to change that location to the terminals are on the top of the case. I don't have that in production yet. We're working towards it. The inside of the battery, the performance of the battery is going to remain the same. It's going to be the completely identical internals. It's going to be a different box, and the terminal location is going to be on the top. I have a sample I can show you. I don't have a solid ETA. We're shooting for the end of the third quarter. Once I have a realistic time frame that I feel like is accurate, we'll make sure everyone has the information. It'll be a running change. You won't know any difference in performance. There'll be plenty of notice as to when it's going to come out, but this is basically what the case is. So our Nano battery right now goes in a Harley like this. So if I'm sitting on the seat, the front tire's right here, the factory wires have to go in the front. We've configured it to where it drops in this way. You flip this little flap open, threaded locations, stock wire can go there, 3 locations for accessories. The ABS pan goes back on it. Everything fits like it should. This is just a 3D printed case. It's one of our prototypes that we're using for sizing. But this is the next new thing, I guess, that's going to come out. We're shooting for the end of the third quarter. Don't hold me to it. It's not a guaranteed date. That's our goal. And another thing I forgot, I actually have sitting right here. So we've made battery terminals for all the batteries. We have a 4-spot and a 6-spot terminal. Basically, it's a flat terminal like everyone else, just a machined aluminum terminal. It'll bolt down to any battery we make. Got 2 through holes on it right here. The reason there's 2 holes is some of our batteries have a left positive, like the Nano battery. All your Harley stuff, positives on the left. Some of the batteries have a right positive. We made 2 through holes, and they're situated on the terminal to where they'll fit. One SKU will fit every product we sell. Comes in a 4-spot, comes in a 6-spot. These are all on the newest price sheet. They're all in stock in our building, ready to go. Because we were getting these, we had the ability to get, I don't know how many people use dual amp inputs. We did source dual amp inputs. These are available. They've got the biggest margin. Doesn't matter who you're buying them from. These have the biggest margin for you guys. They have the lowest retail point. Can be added to any of your orders. All of those items are in stock, ready to go. So to answer the newest battery question, the newest thing is going to be that new case, probably the end of third quarter. What's the part number for the Harley adapter? It's on that sheet. It's on the price sheet above in this chat. There's a link to a price sheet. It's on there. Let's see, is there 30 on shipping for the Harley terms in proper place? Not yet. There's the application chart in here. Yep, Harley adapter. Yep, there you go. A lot of the shops I sell to, they don't use the Harley adapter. They don't have a difficult time putting the stock wire plus like a 4-gauge on the front of the battery. It's an accessory. It's not needed. It does make it easier. When it's on there, all the stuff still goes back under the seat like normal. It's a convenience thing. It makes it much easier. Again, if there's any other questions, they can be emailed over to us. They can be called. If you can't think of nothing right now, feel free to get them to us. I will answer a call. We'll spend time and do a FaceTime, whatever we need to do. We'll make it so that you have all the information you need for sure.
So as far as the battery chargers and things go, like just for sales
Yep.
positioning, for the sales guys, what's the add-on percentage, that we should be selling a charger to a battery?
I like to see, so in the motorcycle world, I like to see a maintainer go with every battery. And the reason being is most of these motorcycles have LED lights all over them, amplifiers everywhere, and they're not ridden on a regular basis. So that maintainer will ensure that they never come out to a dead battery. In the motorcycle world, they're going to have a BMS. So if they do come out to a dead battery, they can apply power to it and turn it on and start it. I like to see a maintainer on every battery sold, really. If it's a daily driven vehicle, they probably aren't going to hook up a maintainer every night, and they don't need to. Anything that sits, I like to see a maintainer in those customers' possession for sure.
Sam, realistically, we're seeing about a 65% attachment rate. And we hope with education, we'll see that rise. But right now, I'm seeing about a 65% attachment rate with the customers I'm handling.
Bus bar part numbers are on the price sheet also. That's above. Life expectancy on a no lie in a car. So quickly, so I don't spend a ton of time boring you guys. A lithium and a sodium battery is rated on a cycle life. So a sodium battery could have 3,000 or 4,000 cycles in its life expectancy. What a cycle means is fully charged to fully discharged. That'd be 16 to 6. That drop, 16 charge, you bring it down to 6, that's a cycle. In the car audio world, we never do that. We don't charge it to 16 and drop to 6. So it's hard to put a mathematical calculation on it. The general rule of thumb is 8 to 10 years. So a lithium battery and a sodium battery have a life expectancy of 8 to 10 years. No sodiums for a Harley. We talked about earlier, the problem is there's not enough storage in the voltage range of the Harley. The Harley only operates between 14.4 and probably 11.9. And that capacity of a sodium in that range is very low. Can you physically put one in there? Yes. It's going to go dead quite rapidly when the person's playing in a parking lot. Still, the Nano HD, the lithium iron is still the best for a motorcycle, for sure.
Hey, guys, could you speak to when we'll have good inventory on the Harley batteries? We just got a limited supply in, but I know more coming in coming weeks.
Yes, so I don't know the back order. I don't have it in front of me. There's a supply coming in approximately 2 weeks. And then they'll be back in everyone's hands.
So everybody on the call right now, we just received in a handful of batteries. So tomorrow they'll be sold out. So if you want them, get them on order.
Yes, just the Harley battery is about 2 weeks out. The No Life 30 is about 2 weeks out. The others we have in our possession now. So we can fulfill orders other than those two specific models. They're, like I said, they're about 2 weeks out. First week of April, we're hopeful for. As soon as I get accurate tracking information, I'll give it to Dave and he can pass it along, but that's the projected date right now.
Matt, what's the best way to deactivate the BMS when they get triggered? Like you said to jump it or.
Yep. So to bring the battery back to life, get the thing back working again.
Correct.
So if it's in a Harley, it's under the seat. We're going to pop the seat off, and then if you have a jump box, it can be a jump box for a car that you bought at Walmart. You can have a battery charger. You can have anything that has 10 volts or more. You take that and you touch it to the 2 terminals on the battery, literally for a second. You touch it to the battery, that burst of current will turn the BMS back on, and then it will retain the current to start the motorcycle. And like I said before, I actually took a 9-volt battery out of a voltage meter, stuck a set of wires on it, and touched it to the nano and turned it back on. So 9-10 volts and up, about a second on the terminals, it'll turn it back on.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Do we expect the inventory normally soon? Yes, we are very actively working to not run out of products. It's been a struggle. It's definitely the popular item. Daytona just happened. A lot of bikes got ready for Daytona. Generally between now and the the fall rallies, we do good. We do have extra orders going. We hope to be back to a good situation very soon. Let's see, can actually be local DNS for the maintainer? The maintainer probably will not wake it up. The 8-amp charger or the 25-amp charger will. So I have Nano HD installed in Tour Pack. When I see, can I just use the one in Tour Pack? Yes. If it dies, it doesn't matter if you have 5 batteries on the bike. If they all die, you touch your power to one of them, it'll turn them all on. So you don't have to do it individually. If they're all parallel together, you touch whatever one's the easiest one to get to.
Well, very good. I appreciate your time tonight, Matt. I thank you so much for coming on and educating us.
Yeah, no problem. Any questions I need to answer, feel free to reach out. We can do a one-on-one, whatever necessary, we'll make it happen.
Yes, sir. Thank you so very much.
All right, guys, I
Thank you.
appreciate you having me. Thank you.